Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome to a brand new series of Deen Check, where we discuss everything to do with youth matters and everything surrounding young people.
Acting bad like you wanna run the scene. You're getting nothing from that empty life you lead. Come to Islam, you find your inner.
I'm your host Abubakr Islam, and today inshallah ta'ala we're going to be talking about the importance of having good companions. Now, we live in a time where many young people are going astray. We have social media, we have the internet going viral, people are doing all sorts of stuff. So we're going to talk about some of the elements of having good companions and the importance of having good surroundings. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to our co-presenter, Brother Musa Salam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Now, Musa, this topic is a topic that you know is very, very important, especially in the time that we're living in today, whereby many young people are going astray. There's so many different elements that we can discuss today, but in general, we want to talk about the importance of having good companions. Now, could you touch on this briefly, why it's important to have good friends?
Yeah, so I feel like we know obviously from the time you start school for the first time, be it primary school, you know, your parents are always worried, are you going to make good friends? Are you going to have good people around you? Have you made any friends? Are you lonely? So we know companionship is something that is with us from a very, very young age, from childhood, you know, with our parents worrying. If you have children of your own, the first day you send them to school, you're always thinking, are they going to make friends? You know, are people going to like them? Are they not going to like them? So when you look at how early companionship starts for somebody that's leaving the house, it starts at a very young age and it follows you all the way through your life. And you find that from school, like I'm saying, when you start in primary school, you find like, you know, if you ever used to get in trouble or you didn't get in trouble, it was always due to the people that you surrounded yourself with. So if you was with a group of kids that were always talking and making fun in the class, then due to your companionship, you'll most probably always be in trouble. And if you was with the hard-working kids that studied and done a lot of their homework and things like that, then you'd be in a good companionship. So without a shadow of a doubt, it starts from an early age and it follows us all the way through to our adulthood. And many of us make the wrong decisions of picking wrong friends from an early age, and sometimes we find ourselves that when we leave school and we go into secondary school, you know, some of our friends and some of the what can I say, the type of things that we do that rubs off on other people, not just as people being our friends, but us being their friends, is that we have some type of role to play in people's lives. And you find that some of us, like I said, that made those bad decisions and had bad friends, a lot of people end up in jail because of their friends. A lot of people have ended up dead because of the friends that they were around with. A lot of people have ended up addicted to drugs because of their companionship. A lot of people, people have ended up in some bad situations, you know, none other than losing your life due to the people that you're around. And we grew up in an environment like that in South London, and we, you know, by the age of 20 we had lost a lot of friends to the streets, and that was due to who they were with. We called it a gang, but it was your companionship and your friends. So without a shadow of a doubt, just from that element alone, we see that, you know, the friends that we keep, it's a dangerous thing, man.
Now, like what you said, in regards to having friends, many people will differ. Like, you might think having a good friend is having a friend what does certain thing, and I might think having a good friend is a friend that does certain things. How would you know the difference between having a good friend and a bad friend?
Based upon obviously the life that we live as Muslims and being Muslims, is that obviously we look at people that benefit us not only in this life, but care about our akhirah, you know, the hereafter, and the position that we have with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So obviously, if anyone calls you to anything which is displeasing to Allah, which is going to make you fall into sin, especially major sin and public sin that you do out in the public, going out clubbing, smoking, raving, meeting girls and things like that, then obviously you're going to look at this person as a bad friend. But then when you look at the youth and you look at their surroundings and they're not really thinking too Islamically on their position and where they are with Allah, they're thinking about people that's going to protect them on the road, people that's going to give them a worldly benefit, like this guy's going to help me make money, he's going to help me get a new car, he's going to help me get, you know, girls, he's going to help me progress within the dunya. Then they're going to make those wrong decisions, because a lot of the time you find that when you're trying to please a person based upon what they can get you. It's not real friendship, because what happens that you find in the street most of the time is that when he's no longer able to do these things for you, or she's no longer able to do these things for you, your friendship falls apart. But what you find with good friend and good companionship is that sometimes you might not speak to a person for 6 months to a year, but when you do speak, it's like it was yesterday, because you have that solid companionship that's based upon practicing the deen, getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you have that strong base of brotherhood and sisterhood, which is something is second to none, basically.
Okay, but that's like coming from a religious perspective. So obviously we're Muslim, alhamdulillah. So we look at things like what you said, getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, having friends that will keep you away from doing sins and what have you. But what about someone who's not religious or someone who's not a Muslim? They might think, you know, for example, let's say before we came to Islam, you know, the type of friends that we thought were friends were people who used to, like you said, help us make money, or people that maybe you got into a beef or you got into a problem on the streets, a person who defended you. Look, me and you both know we've had friends who have helped us, who could have even saved our lives before. So our loyalty, generally speaking, if you're in Jahiliyyah, your loyalty will be to someone like that. So how would someone who maybe is not religious, who's not a Muslim, be able to distinguish what is a good friend and not?
I feel like for someone that's not a Muslim, their moral compass is at a 360 angle, or where it's backwards, because when you don't have certain principles and pillars within your life that you stand for, like they say, if you don't stand for something, then you fall for anything. And I feel like when you don't have that moral compass that Islam establishes in our lives in a day-to-day basis, then it's very hard for me to deal with someone a certain way, because, you know, that, like you said, it's an individualism in terms of what benefits me at that time. So what benefits you is not what's going to benefit me. But then when we come with Islam has given us what benefits all of us as Muslims, and what, you know, and what is bad for us as a collection of Muslims, so that we have that moral compass of how you can help me, how you can't help me. So I have a 0 to 10 guide of 10, he's helping me a lot, 0, he's no good for my akhidah. But when you don't have that as a non-Muslim, and you don't have that moral compass of how to deal with things, we have things like, if you smile, that's being kind, saying hello, saying goodbye, things like that's just generally speaking the universal, you know, mannerisms. But in terms of real friendship and benefit, like you said, some people might be trying to get into the music game, and they feel like because that person helped me get into it, he's my friend. Some people could be trying to get into the drug game, and because that person helped him get into the drug game, he feels like that's a friend. So you feel like that moral compass, how are you able to advise that person, you know, when he doesn't have that moral compass of knowing that music is haram and selling drugs is no good for you, you know, generally speaking? Because you find that even though people that smoke, and we know smoking kills and causes all types of diseases, lung disease, cancer, things like that, people will still think that people that help them by getting them cigarettes and getting them cannabis and things like that are friends, when you know that they're helping you in terms of killing yourself and smoking your life away. So it's very hard to deal with people that are not Muslim, that don't have that strong moral compass.
Let me give you a catch-22. You must know somebody, who maybe who's not a Muslim, or even he's a Muslim, he's not really practicing, but you may trust him even more than some brothers and sisters who are practicing. I can give you a prime example. There's certain individuals that I know who are not Muslim, but I trust them more than some Muslims. And I know this is not really Islamically correct, but from the actions that I see from these individuals, I know that they're trustworthy individuals. So sometimes, even though we know Islam teaches us that, you know, trust your brother, be around the Muslims, be around the believers, but sometimes you have that issue where some of the believers, you can't really trust them. So how do you have a balance when you get into situations like this?
I feel like that's based upon a person's what you know of the person, you know, the apparentness of an individual and anyone. Somebody could be a Muslim, but he's known to be a thief. Somebody can be a Muslim, but he's known to be a liar. Somebody can be a Muslim, but he's known to be someone that, you know, falls into major sin a lot of the time. And he has that history of reoccurring and falling into certain issues that is publicly known. And what is known about that Muslim is that when you see him try to help him, but by giving him money or by borrowing money to him, you're actually causing a fitna to him, because he's known that he's not able to hold on to money. So you're the problem, because it's known, it's not something which is hidden. And I feel like just the same way some of the Muslims or the non-Muslims are known to have certain good characteristics, and without a shadow of a doubt, we learned that from like the story of the Prophet Musa Salam, his uncle that had many good characteristics, even though he's a kuffar and he died upon kuffar, but he had good characteristics. Or the Jews that the Prophet Muhammad Salam, you know, traded with until he passed away, way. So I feel like an example is that I most probably trust the bank with my money more than I trust anyone. You know what I'm saying? And we know the bank is their kufar and whatever, but because they have those procedures and we know how they deal with money and things like that, you feel if you had somewhere to put money and you wanted to put it into safe it, you'd put it in a bank rather than just put it anywhere on the road and things like that. So I feel like we have to know the differences between people that are trustworthy and people that are friends. I think there's a lot of people that are not my friends, but there's no shadow of a doubt I have to be honest and say, nah, he's a trustworthy guy or he's an honest guy. It's similar to being honest and being dishonest. There's a lot of non-Muslims that we could say they're honest people and that every time I've dealt with him, he's never wronged me. But yet again, because of that moral compass and him not understanding what benefits me in this life and the next, he keeps on making those same mistakes. So even though he's never wronged me with stealing or cheating or anything, but he wrongs me by maybe calling me to things which is haram, which he doesn't understand. You feel me?
One thing you said is very important, and I was in that situation myself in regards to putting a fitna onto someone, putting someone in a funny situation. Like, for example, I had a situation with a Muslim and it was a situation to do with money, and we noticed that subhanallah, the brother was taking some money from us, but wallahi, I don't believe this brother to be a bad person, but I believe when I looked at it, me and my partner who were doing the business with this guy, we were putting this guy in a funny situation whereby
100%.
we were entrusting him with certain money that he's never had before. So due to this, he was stealing some of the money. But as soon as we took him out of that situation, our relationship's been perfect again. So I think that's very important what you said, to acknowledge everyone is different. You know, subhanallah, you might put someone in a situation, you're the one really who's putting them through that problem and making them still, because you put them in a situation that they can't handle.
100%.
So I think that's a very important point.
Because all of us have different things that are fitness and problematic. For me, it'll be like football. If we have to go and do something or something's going to happen, don't start putting on a football match now. Because now it's going to be a problem. It's a fitna for me. It might not be, it's a distraction. It might not be as big as a problem as stealing or doing something like that. But it's that fitna. And like you said, some people is that, like you said, they're not bad individuals, but you've put them in a predicament where it's not healthy for them. And you should look at an individual and say, that guy there, the most money maybe he's ever had is £20 in his life, £100, £50, whatever. And now you're giving him 200,000. Like, what are you doing? And that's why a lot of us, you know, many of us say that, if I had £1 million tomorrow, I don't know what I'll do. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people realize that money and certain, you know, fitness that you put yourself in are definitely problematic. And it's easy to say it when you're not in it, but when you're in it, it's definitely a problematic issue.
All right, another scenario. A lot of young people contact us, you know, especially people from the streets, and, you know, some of them are trying to get on the deen, they're trying to practice, but previously, before they were practicing, maybe they were on the street doing certain things and they got into situations with certain people that they feel like them and that individual feel like they got loyalty, that they have to stick with them. And I notice a lot of young people contact me and say, you know what, I don't want to hang around with these guys no more, but he's done this for me, he's done that for me, I can't separate from them. What advice would you give to someone who's in that type of situation? What would you say to a young person like that?
I feel like making new friends is always daunting, you know what I'm saying? And also, one thing that I realize is that sometimes it's easy for us to judge ourselves or judge other people based upon ourselves. So some of us are comfortable to walk into a room, walk into an atmosphere. Some of us travel to different countries on our own and make friends and meet people and crack on. And there's other people that, you know, they can be somewhere. They can be in a school, in a building, in an area for years without making friends. They just don't have that interaction skills or that people skills, and it's different. So I feel like it's always daunting to different type of people. There's some people that walk, you know, like many of us, we left the roads and we came into Islam and we just met new different people. We started rolling around with people that are old enough to be our father's age, our granddad's age, and we'll do business, eat with them, you know, brothers that would ring us that will be 3 times our age, and we'll go and sit down and conversate and have no issues. And prior to that, we were only rolling with people in our own age group. So it was easy for us to make friends. So a lot of people have that fear factor of, if I don't have no one around me, what am I going to do? And on top of that, like you were saying, it doesn't mean because somebody is Muslim, they're going to have the best of manners, the best of characters and stuff like that, even though generally speaking, that's what Islam calls us to. But we know that there's a difference between Islam and a Muslim. So now what you find in the West is that many of the Muslims, especially the people that we deal with, they just have the same type of characteristics as any other youth out there. You know, so you find an 18-year-old Muslim that was brought up in North London, most of the time he's no different from another 18-year-old youth that's brought up in a non-Islamic household. You know, they went to the same school, they support the same football teams, they watch the same movies, they went to the same, you know, playgrounds to play around and stuff like that, where he might have had a different moral compass point in his household, his parents telling him Islam, this and that, but at the same time, he's lived in this environment. So you find that a lot of people come to Islam and sometimes they find that they're expecting a lot from the Muslim. They're expecting the Muslim to be someone that doesn't swear, someone that's always lowering he's gay, someone that's, you know, he's just moving like, would say like what's the name? Just moving like a holy type of person. You know, he doesn't do any bad.
Expect him to be religious.
You're religious, like proper, like a monk, someone that's just moving through like a sheikh, someone that just doesn't busy his time with what's going on. And then when they find these bad manners and bad habits that they themselves have, but just don't expect you to have it as a Muslim. They think I can have it because I was a non-Muslim and blah, blah, blah. But you're a Muslim, why do you have it?
For like a prime example, when we see a lot of non-Muslims, they say, wait, you're Muslim, you shouldn't be doing this, you shouldn't be doing that. Like, they presume that Muslims don't commit sin.
Yeah, that's it. So they can't understand why, you know, they have that perception. And sometimes it's from the shaitan, because the shaitan will try to make things look different from what they really are, so you can then maybe have doubts about the religion. But like we say, every single one of us are sinners. There ain't any Muslim out here claiming to not be a sinner or claiming to be someone that doesn't sin. The problem I find that we find is that it's the open sins. So these open sins kind of make people sometimes think to themselves, why am I hanging around with this guy when he sins and my kuffar brethren done the same thing, but I've got a better relationship with him. He'll help me and this and this. I don't know this guy because he just says he's Muslim. What does that mean? So it finds that a lot of people have different problems with leaving old friends, going to new friends. But what a person has to really do is that when they're walking towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and walking to better in their life and living a better life and leaving the haram they used to do, they need to separate themselves from everything, type of like that. Not to say that leave your old friends away, but better yourself so that maybe you can better your old friends. You know what I'm saying? Put yourself in a different situation so some of your old friends can say, you know what, you know, have that connection, but don't make it as tight where because he raves you rave, because he smokes you smoke, because your old friend could be someone that goes raving club and all that, but you're not with him, but he has a day job as a mechanic, he's a plumber, and you ring him up. He can do jobs for you can still have communication based upon good, and just try your best to, you know, not really indulge him in the haram.
Let's drive this conversation in a little bit of a different direction. Now, that's one element of trying to have good friends and separating yourself from bad people. Now, we have the other side where we have individuals who don't have no friends. Some people who are loners, some people find it hard to, you know, get along with other people. So we see some of these individuals maybe online searching for friends. What advice have you got to people like that? Because we've seen people that even ourselves that we know, we believe them to be good people, but social media just turns them into something else. And you could see sometimes, you know, these people are not like that, but they're screaming for help. They're screaming for attention. They just want people to acknowledge them. What would you say to a young person like that?
I feel like sometimes when you start practicing the deen, especially the young Muslims, that when you start practicing Islam and you start to walk down a certain path, sometimes it can be a lonely path, because within the country, within where we are in the West, especially the Muslims in the West, within America, France, Europe as a whole, the Muslims are a minority. And then those that practice Islam are a minority within a minority. So you find that when you walk down that path of practicing Islam and trying to be, you know, obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you're going to find yourself in circumstances where you're alone most of the time, and you're trying to find ways of worshipping and busying your time with learning the deen, and you are going to be alone most of the time. But what happens is that social media takes you out of your comfort zone of being alone, because you're in your house, no one's around you, but then you log onto social media and all of a sudden you're attached to the whole world and you're seeing it. So as much as you're hiding from what's going on in the nightclub, what's the newest fab, you know, what's the newest this, what's the newest that, as soon as you log on to that social media, the camera takes you into the nightclub, it takes you into the latest fab, it takes you into what's going on and what's happening. And you find that a lot of people, you know, sometimes they end up destroying themselves because of the social media and what they have. And then they also, it's easy to make fake friends. You know, it's easy to feel like because someone's following you or someone's liking your pictures or because you're having conversations with people back and forth through social media. There's people that have a bad reaction or a bad effect on someone that they've never met. There's people that are your friends on social media, and due to the haram that you do, you've had some of the baddest effect on them due to people that they've met. They've never met you, they don't know you personally, but due to them following you and being your friend online, you've had some of the baddest, some of the worst effects of an individual has had on them, in terms of that they didn't listen to a certain type of music until they became your friend online. Yeah. They didn't, have certain type of fitness in their life until they became your friend online and following you, and through that you've affected them. And vice versa said to that is that there's people that's following individuals online that they don't know personally, never spoke to, but they've changed their lives. They've made them pray, they've made them start to worship and better themselves, vice versa. So I feel like online has its pluses and minuses in terms of friends and what it can do to an individual.
Okay, we're coming towards the end of the show. What advice have you got to young boys, young girls out there in general in regards to having good friends?
I feel like it's important first and foremost to know that, especially for anyone that wants any type of good for themselves in this world and the hereafter, or just wants any type of benefit, is to know that what is good for you. Because first and foremost, if you believe going raving and going clubbing is good for you, then you're always going to lead yourself to that path of finding people that's on that and on that. But if you believe that you want paradise, you want to be close to the messengers, you want to see a last face, you want to be in Jannah, then you have to surround yourself with people that get you there. Simple as that. Because every single one of us that wanted to play football made sure they went to football clubs and they had friends that were playing football, vice versa. Or you wanted to do acting, whatever you wanted to do in life, you surrounded yourself with people that were in the same boat. You never surround yourself with people that are not walking down the same road as you're going down the same path. So this road of walking towards paradise and pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is no different. You have to surround yourself with people that fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the best of their ability and encourage you to do good. There ain't no math equation to it. It's as simple as that. Find people that want the same things that you want in life. And inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make it easy for you, to reach those goals.
Jazakallah khair.
Right, yeah.
Thank you for your great input, Musa. We pray and ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide the people and make them strong.
Ameen.
Brothers and sisters in Islam, we've come to the end of another episode of Deen Check. Like the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, he said, you are on the religion of your companions. So it's very important for us to pick good people to surround ourselves around. Make sure we're around good people, people who fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, people with good manners, and people who are working for the akhirah. Until next time, I'm your host Abubakr Islam on Deen Check. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
قال إني عبد الله آتاني الكتاب وجعلني نبيا